Hey guys, Stefan Fischer here from All Off Road. In this quick video I would like to share with you my take on UHF etiquette in the desert, and in particular the Simpson Desert. Because to be honest, if you get that wrong, you may achieve exactly the opposite and have people turning down their UHF instead of really listening and being aware that you are coming. So stick around, and after the short intro I will tell you the do's and don'ts for UHF desert communication. So let's start with the UHF. Every vehicle crossing any of Australian deserts should have its own UHF. I would recommend a 5-watt built-in UHF with a 6.6 dB antenna. But if you don't have a fixed mounted unit, get a 5-watt handheld UHF. However, I would not recommend using a handheld UHF which has less than 5 watt. If you have a bigger group, it is highly recommended to run 2 UHFs in the lead vehicle and in the tail vehicle. You have one UHF on the Desert Channel 10 and you monitor and distribute your location via that. And then on the second UHF you have the group channel, which is on a different channel, which doesn't interfere then with the Desert Channel. Personally, I have 2 UHFs in my vehicle and I do the same, even if we only with 2 or 3 cars. That means we can have a chat without annoying other people. Make sure you still do a visual check from every crest of the dune. Look ahead, see whether you see sand flags somewhere. Just keep in mind, if 2 vehicles are in a swale separated by 1 dune, you still may not have UHF reception. The driver in the lead vehicle should do a broadcast every few kilometers and stating the numbers of vehicles, the line you drive on and the direction of travel. For example, 3 vehicles eastbound on the French line. I usually also drive with my headlights on. That really increases your visibility to other vehicles, and you will notice that yourself. You can recognize a vehicle from much further away with headlights on than without. It is also important that you have a sand flag in the appropriate height and at the appropriate location. So either have your sand flag mounted on the bull bar, or if you mount it on the roof rack, make sure it is mounted at the front of the roof rack. Please also consider that if your roof rack is not on the front of your 4-wheel drive, you will need a longer than 2-meter flagpole, as otherwise, due to the position and angle of the vehicle, the sand flag cannot be seen early enough. A good example how not to do it is this car here, as you would only see the flag when you nearly collided with the front of the car. For your group UHF channel, make sure you don't use any of the repeater channels, which is channel 1 to channel 8 and channel 31 to channel 38. These are repeater channels and are only used to communicate with, for example, Mount Dare, the Pink Roadhouse. Let's now go over a few points which I definitely would not recommend doing. And I can talk there from my own experience. I spent quite a bit of time in the desert, and from time to time we have encountered bigger groups, and that usually tend to be the older generation of travelers who maybe have been in the desert in the early days when there was very little traffic, and they tend to announce each dune for each vehicle. So Marie is approaching the dune, and then Marie is cresting the dune, and then next vehicle through. And if you multiply that by 7 or 8 vehicles and 1100 dunes, as you can imagine, it becomes super annoying. While these are often lovely people, they have to adjust to how they do that in the desert, because nowadays there are just far too many groups and vehicles to have that approach. You also need to keep in mind that the UHF signal in the Simpson doesn't travel that well east-west. However, north-south you can easily pick up broadcasts on the French line, which are made on the rig road. So it is really important to not clog up the Desert Channel 10 with general conversation, as depending on how the 2 groups travel, you may hear these banter for hours and hours at the time, which just makes us to really turn the radio down. If you do need a recovery on the approach of a dune, to be honest, I think in the most cases that really does not need much coordination. You just reverse back. But if for whatever reason you have a recovery going on there, make sure you have someone going to the crest of the dune and look out for oncoming vehicles so he can signal accordingly, and then use a different UHF channel to coordinate your recovery. Don't do that on the desert channel. So as a conclusion, I reckon it's just important to use common sense. So if you're on the fringe season and there are hardly any people, and you have the occasional chat, you know, via UHF channel 10, I think that's perfectly fine. However, in peak season, when there are tons of groups and people, it really makes it unpleasant for most people. So while the desert is becoming busier and busier, more and more people flock into it, it is important to have a good UHF etiquette to make it enjoyable for everyone. Thanks a lot for watching again, guys. If you love the desert, make sure to check out one of my many desert videos, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you can, maybe even consider becoming one of my Patreon supporters and help me making these videos for you. Thank you very much. I see you along the tracks.